So I'm very excited about today. We're going to answer a lot of your real estate related questions. We're going to check in with what's happening with the markets and what the forecast is for the next, 3 to 6 months. I don't want to go too far out, and I don't have a crystal ball. And I certainly don't want to make the impression that I know better than everybody else, because one of the reasons why I wanted to do this broadcast today. Hey, Andrew, how you doing, buddy? Nice to see you. I wanted to do this because almost every day that I read Google News or read the paper, there is this doom and gloom forecast about what's going to happen. And when I look at 6 months ago, of course, there was all this doom and gloom. CHMC actually forecast house prices dropping this fall by 18%. So that's how far off the mark they are. And then if I put this up onto the big screen here, let's see here. I don't know how well you guys can see this. The picture on the left is from Wednesday, and the picture on the right is basically from 6 months ago. It was all the forecasts, and I just kind of put them into this one little post. Not sure how well you guys can see that, but just to kind of give you an idea of what all the forecasts are like, the doom and the gloom. But the reality is the market is much, much different, and I want to go into all of those reasons. And of course, depending on who you talk to and which site you go to, everybody's going to have a different opinion about what's happening. And that's what makes it so confusing. So for today, I do want to say this, that real estate is very much specific to the local markets, and it's very specific to unit type as well. I don't know if you remember, but the experts and the gurus and the YouTubers have all been predicting this bubble would burst ever since I became a realtor. So this is not new news. This is something that's been going on forever. So when I post my caveat, I want you to know that what happens is typically when we're reading the news, it's Canada-wide. And because it's Canada-wide, we get news from Ontario, we get news from, from the provinces, and they tend to put it all together. And the fact of the matter is Vancouver and the Lower Mainland, the Fraser Valley, has always defied the odds. It's always went against the grain because we are in a very restricted environment. We have ocean on the west, we have mountains on the north, and we have the states in the south, and then we have farmland to the east. So we only have so much land that's available. And of course, with all pricing, it's all based on supply and demand. And so we're going to go in a little bit about that, but I think you guys, it probably makes sense. Please feel free to post your comments and any questions that you may have. There we go, Andrew. I love that, Mr. Mask, the Masked Bandit. And before I forget, if you guys don't mind sharing this on your timeline for your friends, this material that I'm going to cover with you today is very different from the information that you've been getting. So I'm going against the grain, but I'm going to back it up, and I'm going to give you stats, and I'm going to give you data to tell you why I'm going against the grain. So, that's very different. I'm going out on a limb, so to speak. But as you guys know, if you've been watching the news, the federal government just released, what was it, today, or was it yesterday? They're going to extend the benefit, the $2,000 a month benefit. They're going to rename it. They're going to repackage it. But they're extending it to summer of next year. That's going to have a huge effect on what happens over the 6 months to a year, because that's for people, that money really helps them stay afloat, and it helps our economy stay afloat as well. So I'm just curious, what is your biggest concern about the real estate market right now and your current housing situation? If you want to put a comment down below and let me know what's going on for you. If there's any specific questions that you came to this webinar with, and you said, Kevin, I'm curious about this, or I'm curious about my situation, please feel free to to, post your comments below. I'm definitely here to help. I'm always curious what's going on for other people. And of course, I'd be really interested to know, were you going to make a move this year? And did you actually postpone your plans because of COVID-19? This is actually a central point to how we got to here. Because 6 months ago, if you remember, I was telling all my clients, hold up, don't buy, don't sell. Let's just see what's going to happen with the markets. My clients, they waited 2 or 3 months. The market came back because there was a little bit of a dip. And 2-3 months later, gangbusters. And we're going to look at the stats and everything like that. But no need to tell you guys, if you've been watching the news, you're getting 2 different versions. One version is telling you that the markets are on fire. And then you get other versions, depending on what you're watching, which are saying the market's going to crash and this, doom, gloom, and everything like that. So we'll go into all of that. The biggest thing here is, first of all, when I first started talking about this 6 months ago, my biggest concern was foreclosure rates. What was going to happen after the mortgage deferral period? Because as you know, or most of you guys probably know, we had a mortgage deferral rate of about 6 months from most of the major lenders, and a lot of the smaller ones as well. They really got behind this initiative from the federal government and from the banking industry. And of course, if you don't have to pay your mortgage and you're getting a $2,000 a month check and your wife's getting a $2,000 a month check, you got a lot of money coming into the economy. And what not a lot of people know is incomes, even though unemployment went up, and we'll look at that, but incomes over the last 6 months went up 14%. So all that money coming in, the mortgage deferrals, you've just got all this money coming in, plus the interest rates have never been lower. They're at 1.99% now. Now, we're talking about deferrals. I want to just touch on this so that you kind of understand how Canada is very different from the US. In the US, when somebody forecloses on their mortgage, the banks are very aggressive. And basically, they don't really care about you. So what's going to happen is they want you out of there as soon as possible. And they just put it on the market and whatever they can get for it. They don't want that paper. They just going to get what they're going to get. Okay? Excuse my English. In Canada, we do things completely different. There's a long, drawn-out process. You get, as you've seen, you've got a 6-month deferral. And then at the end of deferral, if you can't make your payment, you've got 2 or 3 months there of grace. And then even at the end of 2 or 3 months, the bank is still going to come back to you in Canada and say, how can we keep you in your home? Can we restructure this? What can we do? Because we don't want to take away your house. Because if we go to the courts, it's a long, drawn-out process and it costs us X amount of dollars. If we can figure out a way to save it with you, we'd much rather do that. So in Canada, it's got the systems are better in place to protect homeowners. And that's why we survive these things much better than Americans do, because our system is set up so differently. Now, 2 to 3 months, you're giving lots of latitude to work out your situation with the bank. And then what happens is when there's no other recourse, yes, they will go to the courts. But the courts are going to take 6 to 9 months, maybe a year, before you even make it to court. You get lots of grace time. You get lots of time to figure this out. And on top of that, at the end of the year, when you finally do get a court date, the judge will always rule in your favor. So that means if you show up at the court date with a suitcase loaded with cash, they will keep the title in your name. So if you find an uncle or a brother and he says, you know what, you're in arrears, $7,500, here you go, I'll lend you the money. The courts will always rule in favor of the seller, the homeowner, whenever possible, which is awesome if you think about it. They're giving you every opportunity to stay in your home. First of all, the reason why I'm covering this point is because if you're a homeowner and you're having a difficult time, I want you to take a deep breath and relax a little bit. So having said that, what I want to do is I want to look at employment rates, because that's the other thing that people are talking about. This graph here is back in 2009. It took 4 years to recover from an employment point of view. The real estate market basically recovered in about 2 years. It was doing well a couple of years later. I remember because I was in it. If we look at the unemployment now, we had a peak of about 13-14%. And just to give you some context, the Depression in the 1930s, the unemployment rate was 30% at the peak. And it actually running at 12 to 15% up to about up until World War II, basically. It took the World War II to basically get the world out of the Depression. The unemployment at the peak in 2009 was 8.6%. If you guys remember that recession when we had a little bit of a hiccup in our economy. But again, it was nowhere near as bad as it was in the US. What happened was, yes, we had 8.6 unemployment, which really, typically we're looking at 4 or 5%. So, it's almost doubled, but it didn't kill us. We got through it. I remember, and you probably, oh, great. Thank you. Thanks for the input. I appreciate that, Andrew, because it's kind of hard. Like these webinars are very one-sided. And if you're not getting a lot of comments from people and stuff like that, you really don't know, like, can they hear what I'm saying? Can they see what I'm showing? Zoom this up a little bit just to kind of try and give a little bit more space. But as you see, we had a peak of unemployment about 13-14%. You guys all know that. But look at how far it's come down. It's at 10.2%. And I've seen some preliminary numbers for September, and it's going to be lower again. The unemployment rate is actually going down. And you might have read this, but a lot of the unemployment was in restaurants and retail. And I don't want to come across as a jerk, because I always try to have compassion and I always try to be understanding. But the fact of the matter is when the majority of your unemployment is in workers who are making $16, $18 an hour, $20 an hour, a lot of those people, they can't afford a house in this environment anyways. I mean, let's be honest. If you're making $20 an hour and you're working in retail or you're working in a restaurant, chances are you might not be a homeowner anyways. I mean, let's just be honest. At $20 an hour, that's like what, $2,000, $2,400 a month. You and I, we all know that's not a lot of money in Vancouver and Lower Mainland. So that you got to keep that into context. When we talk about a high unemployment rate, yes, but we also have to look at who is underemployed and who is unemployed. Most of my friends that I know that have professional white-collar jobs, so to speak, and again, I'm trying not to be a jerk when I say this, they're doing okay. And like I said, if you look at the numbers from the government, incomes are up by 14%. Savings are up. Because of this money that we're getting, doing okay. Because of the mortgage deferrals, we're doing okay. And because this unemployment hasn't affected the more skilled workers who are making $80,000, $100,000, even $60,000 that can qualify for their mortgages, they can stay into their mortgage. Here, I'm just going to go over to this right now. You've probably heard this. Skyrocketing August home sales in Chilliwack and surrounding area. Well, I'm going to show you the demographics and everything like this. This is just blowing my mind. Like I said, open one paper and it says doom and gloom. The market's going to crash. Homes are going to drop in price 7%, 10%, 12%. And then you open up the paper and it talks about what's happening. Is booming. I'm a realtor. Trust me. I've got all the stats I'm going to show you. It's booming. So what's going on? Since 2008 crash, the government and the banks have basically done everything in their power to slow this down. I mean, when you look at it, CHMC, I'm going to just put this up right now. In February of 2016, they tightened again their lending requirements, the lending rules, where now if you buy a home, you need more money for your down payment. So less than 500,000, you need 5%. Well, you know what? In Nova Scotia and Saskatchewan, that's not a big deal. But when you live in Surrey or Langley or Vancouver or New West or Burnaby, most places are over $500,000, and you need 10% over. Any amount over $500,000, you need 10%. If you're buying a house for $700,000 or $800,000, first $500,000 is 5%, and then the remainder is at 10%. And if you want $1 million house, you're looking at 20%. Yeah, exactly, Andrews. You know, I have been talking to my friends, and they've all had similar concerns. The thing is I mean, I'm a realtor, I'm concerned, and I have friends, I'm concerned for them. It's always what's going to happen. But like I said, what's happened is people's incomes are going up, people are busy, people are doing well. I'm just going to switch this over. Here's another one here. You've got Langley, Chilliwack, Surrey. They're booming. And that's why at the beginning, and I gave you this caveat right at the beginning, real estate is very neighborhood specific, very like Fleetwood, for instance, or Walnut Grove, or Burnaby, maybe larger centers. And it's also unit specific. So single family homes may be doing really well, and then condos may be doing really well, or they may not. They can do opposite. Hey, Robert, how you doing, buddy? Nice to see you drop in. You know, it's always nice to see an old friend pop by to say hello. I know I got off on a tangent there about what the government's doing, but I think it's really important for us to understand what the government's doing to try and slow down home prices. They've almost done everything that you can think of. They've tightened up lending requirements. They've pulled back, used to be 40-year, then 35-year, then 30. Now we're down to a 25-year. The government has introduced speculation tax, vacant home tax, foreign buyer tax, and we're in the middle of a pandemic. I mean, can you add any more onto what we have to try and slow things down? The banks and governments have done everything in their power to slow things down, and they still haven't slowed down. We're in a recession. My God, it's just crazy. Sorry if I go on about this, but you know, it's crazy. It's just really crazy. I'm going to go up to the next one. So this here is the sales to active ratio. One of my favorite stats is sales to active ratio. The reason why sales to active ratio is so important is because it's, besides home prices and home sales, it really gives you the ability to take the pulse of what's happening. And one of the things that I do is I actually take my reports and do them neighborhood by neighborhood. Andrew is on my newsletter, and he gets one for its complex. So anytime anybody sells or buys, he gets a little notification, because I know that that's what people want to know. What's happening in my neighborhood? What's happening with the type of home that I have in my neighborhood? When we look at sales to active ratio, what that tells us, when 100 homes come onto the market, of those 100 homes, how many sell in that month? And this is a really good indicator of how fast the market is going. I should get my picture up there. This is a great indication of how fast the market is moving. If your sales to active ratio is up around 50%, which it is, that means out of every 100 homes that come onto the market, 50 of them sell, which is huge. Because in order for prices on homes to go down, you need a buyer's market. And you don't get into buyer's market territory until your sales to active ratio is around 12%. From 50% down to 12%. That is a huge drop. The reason why we have so much inventory right now, I don't know if I covered that at the beginning, but I just want to give you guys some context about why we have so much inventory. Back when COVID started, and I was giving my advice to my clients, I'm sure a lot of other realtors were too, which is hold on, just wait to see what happens. So with all those sellers pulling back, there's less inventory on the market to buy. And because you have less supply, you still have all these people looking for a place to buy because they've got all this money coming in from the Canadian government. They're doing okay. As Andrew said, he's been busy, and most people that you talk to are busy. So they're going, okay, interest rates are really low. I've got money coming in, and I've always wanted to, upgrade to a house. Because people are working at home and they don't have to worry about driving into work, they're going, I could live in Chilliwack. If I can work from home, I can sell my townhome in Fleetwood, which is worth $600,000, and I can buy a 4-bedroom home in Chilliwack for $600,000. Not a bad trade. Chilliwack is exploding. Like literally everywhere you go, they're breaking new ground. They're building townhomes and homes everywhere. Prices, if I show you, let's see, I'm going to just go into the pricing right now, just to give you a general idea. There you go. Look at that. It's off the charts. Active to sold ratio is really high. Our days on market is really low, and home prices are going through the roof. What we are finding is because people are able to, like I've got tons of friends who, during the pandemic, well, we still have it, were working from home. And their bosses said, okay, this is the new reality. You're going to stay at home. So now that they can stay home, they can move wherever they want. And it's funny because I'm putting together a commercial on the 10 top reasons on why you should move to Chilliwack. Because I'm going to tell you, when they expand the highway and they go to 3 lanes out to Chilliwack, past Abbotsford out to Chilliwack, Chilliwack is exploding now, but you just you wait. The only thing stopping it right now is infrastructure. The infrastructure in Vancouver and Lower Mainland is terrible. If you want to take the bus somewhere, if you want to take transit somewhere, it's a pain in the butt. And our infrastructure, when you compare it to Montreal, Toronto, New York, San Francisco, big city centers, our infrastructure is bad. It's very poor. So not a lot of people want to go to Abbotsford or Chilliwack because they don't want to spend an hour and a half to get to work. But if you solve that problem, which I'm hoping they will, I've got my fingers crossed, I've seen the signs, they will take care of that problem. And when they do, you think prices are crazy now, just wait. Like I really do believe that Chilliwack and Abbotsford are really good buys right now for real estate. In 10 to 15 years, their values are just going to go, I think they're going to go up. But having said that, everything's going up, right? Still, anybody have any questions about what's going on or about their particular situation? How can you tell when's the best time to upgrade? Well, okay, so Andrew, that's a great question. Okay, so here's the thing. When you own and prices are going up, the place you want to buy is going up and the place you want to sell is going up. When you want to buy, the place you want to buy, if it's going down, the market's going down, that price is going down, and so is your price. So when you own, market timing really, in my opinion, isn't as critical as if you're renter and you're looking to jump in. If you own, what I always tell people is I say, listen, buy what you can afford with the long term in mind. Why I say that is because, and I'll use you, Andrew, as an example. You guys have been where you've been for a very long time. In 2008, when market goes down, you're not sweating it. You're just saying, you know what? The market's going to come back, and when it does, we'll be okay. And sure enough, the market comes back, and it's crazy. Like, I mean, it's better than ever, right? My advice to you, Andrew, is buy when it makes sense for your family. You know, when your kids are going to high school or they're going to university and you want to get closer for schooling, that's what my wife and I are doing. We're not really concerned too much about what's the market's doing, because this goes back to where I originally started with you, which is we are in a very specific area in the world. We're in one of the top countries to live in, and we're in one of the top areas to live in. Like when people move to Canada, they go to Toronto, Montreal, or Vancouver. And when they come to Vancouver, like we were saying at the beginning, we got ocean on the west, mountains in the north, we've got the States in the south, and we got farmland to the east. Home prices in the Lower Mainland, in my opinion, will always go up unless there's a major catastrophe, like, you know, the zombie apocalypse, which hopefully you and I will never see in our lifetime. But I never thought we'd see a pandemic and we'd be all walking around with masks, right? So, you know, who knew, right? So, sorry, I keep forgetting that I'm letting my picture go here, and you guys, I'm sitting here talking to you, and you guys can't see me. See, I'm talking, and I don't even know what I'm talking about. Oh, I was talking about why could the market change if there's the second wave of the pandemic. If it comes in and it's really, really bad, and it just starts wiping people out left and right, then yeah, you know, our employment rate goes up to 13, 14% like it was in March. But you know, the government's covering us. They've already committed to covering us until summer of next year. And like I said, mortgage deferrals and foreclosures aren't going to happen for another year. My forecast is the next 6 months to 12 months, we should be okay, even with a second resurgence of the pandemic. Like, you know, like it's already surging, you know, kids are back to school. You know how kids are, they're just talking, they're playing, they're, you know, wrestling. That's how kids are. And then they bring it home to the parents, and then the parents go out. And my thinking is yes, we will get a second wave, but I don't think it's going to be the killer that everybody says it is. I think we're going to be okay for all the reasons that I have put out there for you guys. Let's see here. What else do I have for you guys? I'm going to just put this into the comments for you guys here, because I have a really great tool for you guys as homeowners to keep track of what's going on. And I'm going to put it in the comments here and see if I can post this. This is going to be a lot. Let's see when this comes up. I have a tool that as a homeowner you can have access to, and I've put it into the comments. Hopefully that link is clickable. If it's not and you want it, send me a PM on Facebook or send me an email and I will send it to you. Basically, there's nothing like this that I've seen. And what this tool does is it gives you recent sold data from 3 months ago. So basically, you're not getting quite the tools that I have, but you're getting access to what is one of the most important pieces of information that you can have as either a home buyer or as a home seller, which is knowing what the sales to active ratio is, knowing how many months of inventory is on the market, knowing how many homes sold in your neighborhood. You can actually put in this tool. So for instance, Robert, you're living in a house, I don't know if you're still in Cloverdale, I think you sold, and you have, say, a 4-bedroom house. You can put in your area into this tool and it will tell you the last 3 months of solds. Essentially, you'll know what the sales to active ratio is. You'll know if the prices are going up or down. You'll know if it's I'm going to show this to you right now, if it's a buyer's or seller's market. So you don't have to worry about getting in touch with your realtor. Of course, I'd love for you to phone me and ask me for my opinion. But with this tool that I've put into, did you guys get that link? Andrew, did that come up? With this tool, you'll be able to get any information that I can get. Like I said, it's not quite as robust as what I have, but it will give you a good indication of what's going on. As a person who owns a home, I just think it's a great tool to have, and it's free, right? So why not, right? If you have any friends who are thinking about buying, now's the time. You know, we have the COVID money going until summer this year. Employment is up, incomes are up 14%. Interest rates are at 1.99%. If you have somebody who's been sitting on the fence, tell them to get off the fence. I mean, like really, seriously. 97% of wealth is generated from real estate. And you cannot go wrong when you purchase a home in the Lower Mainland. I'm sorry. It's just been proven. And like I said, I've been a realtor for 16 years. And the first year that I got into real estate, the experts were saying we were in a bubble. this couldn't continue. The house prices were going to crash. The market was going to crash, et cetera, et cetera. And I'm still hearing it today. In fact, every day when I open up the paper or I go into Google News, it's somebody else saying, it's not going to crash. The mortgage deferrals are coming to an end, yes, but the foreclosures will not even start to happen for 9 months to a year. We've got all that money coming in to support the economy. I really think that we're going to be okay. And in the 6 months to next 12 months, we're going to figure out all of this. It'll get figured out like it just did just over the last few months. It was all got figured out. We all went back to work. You know, I'm working, I'm going out, I'm talking to people. I'm not worried about it. And I really think that we will get through this. This free coupon, this is available to anyone. So if you have a friend, like I said, who's sitting on the fence and they're thinking about buying and you want to refer me, of course, I would always be grateful. Just say, listen, I know this great realtor and now is the time. Interest rates are low. Jump in, because I'm telling you, no need to tell you buying a home. I don't know anybody who owns a home that regrets it. I've never had somebody phone me up and say, Kevin, that was a mistake. I shouldn't have bought. But I tell you, I know people right now who are paying $2,500 a month, and because they don't have a down payment, they're still renting. $2,500 a month is how much a year? Andrew, you'll know that. It's like $30,000. $30,000 that we're giving to somebody else. In 5 years, when you rent for 5 years, that's, do the math, $30,000, $150,000. And you have, it boggles my mind. Anyway, so that's a different rant for a different day. What about Maple Ridge? Okay, well, hey, no problem, Andrew. So the thing is it Syra? Is that how I pronounce your name? Syra, Maple Ridge is doing well. Are you talking about single family homes or are you talking about townhomes? Thanks, Robert. Hey, listen, man, you know, Robert, so good to see you. Like, I have not seen you in a long time. So thanks for popping by and, you know, saying hello. I really appreciate it. Syra, you know what, Syra? You can buy with complete confidence. As long as you're buying with the long term in view. So when I bought my home, okay, there you go. You're going to be fine. You're going to be fine. Don't worry about it. It's going to be good for a year. I don't think you're going to move into a completion and then all of a sudden the market tanks. My thinking is we're not going to get all of these people foreclosing on their house. This is what I think happened. I think a lot of people who wanted that money went after that money, whether they needed it or not. And I think a lot of people went for their mortgage deferrals, whether they need it or not. I mean, let's be honest. If the bank comes to you and says, listen, if you don't want to pay your mortgage for 6 months and it's only going to cost you a couple of $100, you know, a lot of people said, sure. So they got all this money coming from the government and they've got this mortgage deferral. Now, what's happening is all these credit companies and these banks are looking at the mortgage deferrals and going, oh my God, so many people applied for mortgage deferrals. The economy is going to tank. The real estate market's going to tank. No. What happened is people were smart and they said, oh, I can defer my mortgage for 6 months. Why not? Why not take advantage of that? So think about this. How many people who asked for the deferral who didn't have to? So those numbers are very skewed. So I'm thinking you should be fine. So how was that for an answer, Syra? That was a long answer, wasn't it? Yeah, no problem. I understand. The price drop, everybody's okay. So let's address that. If there is a price drop, the estimates that I've seen are 5 to 7%. But again, remember, Syra, you're buying a home for the next 10, 15, 20 years. It doesn't matter what happens next year. Purchase your home and know that in the Lower Mainland, in the Fraser Valley, and Maple Ridge and Pitt Meadows, prices are going up on single-family homes. One of the things that I always tell people, the reason why single-family homes are such a good investment is because you're buying land. The biggest differentiator between condos and townhomes and single family homes is with a single family home, you are buying land. It does not matter how old the house is. It doesn't matter whether the house depreciates in value. It doesn't matter if a tsunami comes and blows your house over. What people keep forgetting is your value is in land. The thing about condos and townhomes is that every year your strata fee, not every year, okay, sorry, I'm over embellishing. Every 2 or 3 years, your strata fees go up to keep up with maintenance costs. And what happens is after 20 years, 30 years, I don't know, Andrew, what your strata fee is, but it's probably around 300, 270, something like that. What happens when you're in strata, you don't own land, you own the building, but the building depreciates, the land doesn't. That's why single family homes, if you can get into a single family home, it is the best thing that you can do as far as an investment, from an investment point of view, because you don't have to worry about your assets depreciating. Where when you own a condo or a townhouse, you're always concerned that in 20 years, your strata fee is going up because they got to fix the roof, they got to fix the building envelope, they got to fix, fill in the blanks, right? You guys all know. And what happens is 30 years go by, 40 years go by, and now you've got an old building. Now you've got depreciation studies with $5 million worth of work, and you've got a contingency fund that doesn't cover it, doesn't even come close. Where are they going to get that money? They're going to come to the strata owners and they're going to say, listen, we've got a depreciation study. We've put it off as long as we could. We've raised the rates and everything like that. And the days come. We need 30,000 or what, you pick a number, whatever it is. I've seen it. I've worked with home sellers that what's happened is their depreciation study, they vote on it, the strata council gets the vote and they go, okay, we're going to do the work and we're going to do the work in 6 months. We need $30,000. You know what? 10% of your owners all decide to sell at the same time because they don't have 30,000. And then that complex goes down in value because you've got this depreciation study. You can't hide it. The buyer's walking in and going, I don't have $30,000. I'm using that for my down payment. It really creates a pickle. I always tell people who are living in a townhome and it's getting older, or a condo and it's getting older, to really be mindful of what your depreciation report says, when those repairs are coming due, how much money it's going to be, because you don't want to be that guy. You don't want to be the guy that waited too long and now you're part of the stampede trying to sell to get out, and the price is going down because nobody wants to buy in your complex. I'm glad you popped by because, like I said, there's so much misinformation out there. I watch these YouTubers and I watch these people, and they're not putting up the stats to back up what they're saying. They're just parroting what CHMC is saying. Well, CHMC, I don't know if you remember this, back in March said home prices were going to drop 18% in the fall. Well, I can show you the graphs. Let's see if I can find this. I think I showed it to you earlier. There's one there. There's the one. That's home prices right there. Like, I know it's probably, I'm going to blow this up. I know it's not as good as I'd like it to be. I've got to work on this. I just want you to understand, single family homes are a great investment if you can get into it. It's like everything else. I mean, you have your budget, you have what you're capable of doing. But if you can get into one, get into one. And Syra, you're going to be fine. Buying real estate is the long game. It is not, don't buy real estate as an investor unless you're an investor, but buy it with the long game in mind, which is, I'm buying the home. We've got climate change. We haven't even touched on climate change. Imagine this, guys. Canada wants to increase their population to 100 million people. We're at 38 million now. Let that sink in. 100 million people. Where are they going to live? What is that going to do to property values? You think homes are expensive now, just you wait and see. Put on your seatbelts and buckle up. Because when those 100 million people get into Canada, because, okay, this is what nobody talks about. All that COVID money, right? How do you get that money back? How do you pay back the banks? Because the banks are licking their chops, right? Because that's where the government's getting their money from. What's happening is you've got $1 trillion deficit right now. Next year, because of all the COVID money, it's going to be $1.5 trillion. You've got numerous ways to tackle that problem because, you know, $1.5 trillion, there's going to be interest on that money and you got to pay it back. Right now, you may not be aware of this, the single largest line item in our deficit is the interest on our debt. It's higher than the military, it's higher than the hospitals and public schools, education, universal health care, all of that. The single biggest line item in our deficit is the interest. It's $24 billion right now, every year. Bam, 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 bam. There's a bill for $24 billion. That number is so big, we don't even touch the interest. It's like having a credit card and all you do is you pay the interest. Balance just gets bigger and bigger and bigger and bigger because you're not paying it down. You're not paying down the principal. Now, we're at 1 trillion now. And as I've said, the plans are 1.5 trillion by next year. So effectively, that is a hell of a lot of money. And so you've got a couple of ways to solve this problem because you're going to have a lot of debt. You can tax Canadians more money, increase our taxes, which nobody likes. Nobody's going to go for that. Or what you can do, and this is where the pandemic what's the word I'm looking for? This is where the pandemic really screwed us up because the government was, if we bring in 100 million people, they're all going to work because they'll be skilled workers and they're all paying taxes. We go from 38 million people. Is it 30 million or 40 million? Robert, you know how many people live in Canada? I think it's 38 million. But you go from 38 million to 100 million, that's a lot of money coming in through taxes. You don't have to raise taxes if you can increase your population base. But here's the other problem. If you double, think about this, you're going from 40 million to 100 million, you're doubling your population rate. It's more than double, I know. Yeah, make more taxpayers, that's right. Where are they going to live? I mean, it's fine to say they're going to be working and they're going to be paying taxes, but where are they going to live? We have a 0.5 vacancy rate right now. That means for every 100 units available, there's only 0.5% available to rent, to live in. A normal market, the vacancy rate was 4.5%. So rental rates were quite reasonable. You could rent a place for a reasonable price. But the problem is, try renting a place now. Like, it's crazy. $2,500 for a 2-bedroom. Basement suites are $1,600, $1,800. It's insane. But I'm telling you, it's only going to get worse because Canada has to bring in these new people. Once they get COVID-19 behind them and they open up the borders again, they're going to get back to bringing in 300,000 or 400,000 or 500,000 new people a year. And they have to live somewhere. If you don't own a single family home now, buy one now. You want land, you want to own land, and you want to be in the Lower Mainland because this place, you know, you can only pack them in so tight, right? You know, geez, I tell you, you can only pack it in so tight. So yes, we're going to have a blip, but it's not going to last very long and it's not going to be forever. And we're going to be back to gangbusters because, like I was mentioning earlier, climate change is another factor that's coming up. We don't get the tsunamis that they get in the rest of the world. We don't get the droughts and the famines and the weird weather and the hurricanes and all that stuff. And we have lots of lakes, lots of land, and we're in the northern hemisphere. When we have climate change, and it's coming, whether you believe it's man-made or not, it's coming. And when it's coming, all of those billionaires with lots of money, do you think they want to stay in a desert or in a tsunami or where their house just got wrecked? Canada is going to be a beacon to the world because we don't have those natural disasters. We have forest fires, yes. Thank God we got lots of lakes, big bathtubs. But those people with lots of money are going to want to get away from natural disasters. They're going to want to get away from failing economies. They're going to want to get away from all those problems that climate change is going to bring. They've already forecast that the coastal regions in the US are going to be underwater. And you got California with wildfires and droughts. Canada is going to be the place. Sweden, Norway, Finland, all these northern countries, people are going to be, that have money, right? People that have money are going to ask for visas, and they're going to, refugees, whatever they have to do, they're going to come here. And I'm telling you, Canada is going to be very popular. It already is, but it's going to be very popular in the next 10 to 20 years. That's my predictions. Boy, I didn't intend on going an hour. It's funny, like I really only planned on going for, and again, I forgot my picture. I always do that. Sorry, guys, you're sitting there talking to a screen and you're going, who's he talking to? I want to thank everybody that came out. It was fun. And I hope I answered all your questions. I hope I gave you the stats and data and facts to back up what I'm saying so that it makes sense. And then at the end of the day, you can go, okay, that makes sense. You know what? I've got some friends, they need to get off the fence and they need to buy, really. They just need to get into the market and know that this is going to pass. Okay? So anyways, I want to let you guys go. I want to thank you all for coming. And like I said, it's good to see new friends. It's good to see old friends. Thanks for popping by. I really appreciate it. And just so you know, I'm going to do this once a month. I'll be back again in a month and I'll send out a little blast and welcome you guys. And if you have any questions or you have any friends who are not quite sure and they want to drop in and see what I've got to say, then let them know, okay? But anyways, good night. Thank you, everybody. I really appreciate you for coming. And always feel free to drop me a PM in Facebook if you ever have a question, okay? Thank you. Bye-bye.